I'm actually not surprised at all the people that have been flooding my comment section in the last couple of videos, being so upset to find out that Muslims love Jesus too. This is such a big thing. Like when I wear this shirt out here in Redneckistan, it is remarkable the number of people that come up to me and try to explain my religion to me. Like it's nuts. It's nuts. I mean, look, one of the small books that I picked up years ago is by Simon Caraballo. My Great Love for Jesus Led Me to Islam. And then Bilal Phillips, with all of his flaws. Let's go ahead and admit Bilal Phillips has some flaws. But he did this book a long time ago, The True Message of Jesus Christ, which is directly connecting Jesus in the Bible to Jesus in the Quran. And then I wanted to share this because I'm sure a lot of Christians have not heard it. But Surah 19 of the Quran, which is named for Mary, starting with the 16th ayat, 16th verse. Recall in the book of Quran the story of Mary when she withdrew from her family to a place in the east. She screened herself for the purpose of prayer and meditation. We sent our spirit to her, and he appeared before her as a man in all respects. She said, "Indeed, I seek protection with the most gracious from you, if you fear Allah." He said, "I am simply a messenger from your Lord, announcing to you the gift of a holy son." She asked, "How shall I have a son when no man has touched me? I am not unchaste." He said, "Albeit your Lord says, that is easy for me, and to appoint him as a sign for all people, and a mercy from us is a matter decreed." Therefore Mary conceived him, and she isolated herself with him to a remote place. The discomfort of bearing a child drove her to the trunk of a palm tree, and she cried, "Oh, I would rather have died and been forgotten and out of sight." Then a voice came to Mary from beneath her, "Do not grieve. Truly, your Lord has opened a spring beneath you. Also shake towards you the trunk of the palm tree, and fresh ripe dates will fall for you. Eat and drink and freshen your eyes. If you see anyone, say, I have vowed to fast to the most gracious, and I will not converse with anyone this day." Finally, Mary returned to her people, carrying the infant. They said, "O Mary, truly, you have brought an astonishing thing. O sister of Aaron in the family of priests, your father was not an evil man, and your mother was not unchaste." She pointed to the baby, as if to say, "Ask him." They said, "How can we talk to an infant from the cradle?" The baby Jesus said, "I am indeed a servant of Allah. He has given me scriptures and made me a prophet. He has made me a blessed wherever I am, and instilled in me prayer and charity as long as I live. He has made me kind to my mother and not arrogant or rebellious. Peace was upon me the day I was born, and will be upon me the day I die, and the day I shall be resurrected." That is the story of Jesus, son of Mary. It is a statement of truth about which they dispute. It is not befitting of Allah that he would beget a son. Glory to him. When he decrees a matter, he only says, "Be," and it is. Truly Allah is my Lord and your Lord, therefore serve him. This is the straight way. The sects may differ among themselves. Woe to the disbelievers because of the judgment of a dreadful day. How clearly they will see and hear on the day that he will appear before us. Today the sinners are in obvious guilt. Warn them of the day of distress when the matter will be determined. They are negligent and do not believe. Truly, we will inherit the earth and all beings upon it. To us, and again, this we and us is Allah speaking in first person. To us they will all return. So it goes on to talk about Abraham, and before this section it talked about Zechariah, and all of this stuff here in Surah 19 is very illuminating for Christians and for people who were Christian at some point in their life. The translation that I read is the Universal Message of interpreted from the Holy Quran. This is a translation that my mother worked on with Dr. Ahmed Pandur. This translation is adapted to be understandable by the average English reader in America, based on the average mean of reading levels. So I wanted to share that with you because I continue to struggle with this issue that Christians want to reject this idea that Muslims can have identity with Jesus Christ. Jesus is the Messiah. He is a unique prophet. Not only is he a prophet, he is a Rasul, meaning he brought a message. The message is loosely codified in the Gospels of the canonical Bible, but there are a lot of books that were written down early in Christianity that have been lost in one way or another and were rediscovered only within the last 100 years, 200 years. Some of those books are called the books of infancy. These books chronicled the stories of Jesus as a young child. And while some of them may not be true, I find it interesting that there are sections in the books of infancy that directly parallel what is in the Quran. And not only were those books not available to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, but those books were not available to anybody for a very long time. They were only discovered, I believe the first scrolls were discovered in the late 1800s, and then others were discovered in the early 1900s, early 20th century. So to find that kind of validation is interesting. And I know some people are going to say, well, those aren't verified. Well, they kind of are. Those scriptures have been verified as being written down within the 1st or 2nd century of Jesus Christ's birth. And the thing is, that's about the same kind of timeline we're talking about for all the books of the New Testament. Many of the books of the New Testament were not written down during the lifetime of Jesus Christ or of the people that they are supposedly attributed to. And then, of course, a large quantity of those books of the New Testament were written by Paul. And I always had a problem with that because Paul's story didn't really jive with me. Like, how do you have this guy who is so much against Jesus Christ, and then after he dies, he's like, oh, look at, I have been blinded by the light, and nobody witnesses this, by the way. And actually, historically, we know that Jesus' own disciples rejected Paul. They didn't want to have anything to do with him. And I find it interesting that the Pauline epistles in many places contradict what Jesus himself directly said. So, I feel like the shift that has happened in Christianity over the last 100 years towards the more evangelical, radical identity is more Paulian than it is Christian. But in my New Testament theology courses, I had big problems with Jesus as he was taught to me in the church, because when I'm reading in the New Testament and we're, breaking things down in the Greek and analyzing the way the word choices were by the writers, and then see the word choices that were made by the translators, it didn't make sense to then have these ideas that Jesus Christ was the Son of God, as in a literal, like, I'm trying not to be disrespectful. That's why I'm pausing. But it didn't make sense to me. And it was very contradictory in the entire process of Jesus' journey. So I walked away from Christianity because I was convinced that Christianity, as it presented itself, was not supported by the texts that it claimed to support it. So anyway, I hope that illuminates a bit more. As always, free Palestine. and peace be upon you all.